It's about time for another vacation. And probably time for a couple of drinks of something that, you know, looks like water but really isn't. I'm just, This is water, I swear to you. So what kind of vacation am I talking about here, friends? Is it a vacation from your operating system? No, we already covered that, and my goodness, that was a terrible video. A lot of good points in it. Just terrible, terrible delivery. I'm talking about a vacation from the mysterious world of social media. Have you actually tried giving it a shot? That's right. What you're on right now. So what am I talking about? YouTube. Let me just adjust this right here. So what are some good vacation sites that you can go visit? You see what I did there with the sites and, you know, like websites and stuff like that? You know, you get the joke? I swear to you, this is water, not what you think it is. All right, sorry for that bad joke. Well, let's take a look in alphabetical order of some of what I think are the bigger contenders, and let's get started with BitChute. What is BitChute? I guess it's more politically charged than YouTube. There's a lot of conspiracy theories on there. There's a lot of right-wing news sources on there. And I guess it's kind of like a Republican YouTube and a place for the people that get demonetized from YouTube to go. But what is it from a usability standpoint? Well, when it comes to views, I get more views right off the bat, and then it weans down pretty much like instantly. Compared to YouTube, where, you know, it's like trying to hit through a floor, but, you know, just like the Associated Press announcement we're getting every 2 seconds saying, you know, that a certain someone is projected winner by the Associated Press of the presidential elections.
Preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company and
it's just kind of suppressing you down. And then after a certain while, it's like, okay, you go. And then you get some growth, but it's not, you know, big growth. It's kind of a little bit more steady growth. BitChute is kind of the opposite. It's immediate growth, and then you just kind of peter on out. In terms of a UI standpoint, the UI, I mean, it's got basically all you need. Dark mode, upload video button, profile button. That's about it. Now, you can't have multiple accounts assigned to it. You have to pay for that kind of stuff. It's kind of semi-decentralized, so you still kind of got somewhat of that YouTube structure controlling you there. And, I mean, there's no official app for it. There was a popular app by a guy named Hexagod, but, you know, I mean, YouTube decided to censor that like they did LBRY for, you know, non-existent reasons. So moving on down the list, we have DTube as our next thing. And the D just simply stands for decentralized. And it is a decentralized platform. And in fact, I think it's probably the biggest pain in the butt of a platform out there. So it should be called PeerTube for pain in the butt. And what do I mean by pain in the butt? Even though it's decentralized and stuff like that, it's kind of decentralized to the point where it's not creator friendly. Meaning when you sign up to get an account and stuff like that, you know, most creators want a password. You know, if I forget my password or something, I can get back into my account, right? DTube doesn't have that. When you sign up, they give you public and private keys that you use, and you use the private key to log in and control stuff like that. And then they tell you to create another key that you use for it. And this all makes sense if you're like a computer guy like me. But for most people, they're like, what the heck? Why can I log in? And it's because you don't have a password, you have the key. And so you have to have the key file on your devices. And then this kind of makes a little bit of an issue with all this, is that your public and your private key and stuff like that. And then you have your like semi. It's kind of a pain and a hassle for most people. They just want to be able to have an upload button and a login, and they don't give that. Not to mention that when you sign up for it, they require that you have 2 digits for whatever reason in your account name. For someone like me, that's, you know, Hatty Hacker. I mean, I could put a 3 in for the E, but I mean, I don't really have very many options in terms of like numbers and letters that I can throw in there. So I just have to have it Hatty Hacker 00. I should have put in a 7. Dang it! Well, now here's the funny thing. If you get so much of the digital Steam or currency, you can be able to purchase an account name without the like digits at the end of it, but you need to have the money in the account to pay for it. So it's not really creator friendly from the start. But don't let that stop you from getting on there to watch stuff, because they actually have good content. I would say that it's kind of got YouTube content, like, if you will, from YouTube from 10 years ago that people magically mention. You know, I wasn't there 10 years ago, so I kind of missed the big golden era of YouTube. But apparently, if you like that kind of content and that kind of stuff, that's going to be on there, really. And another benefit of it is that you can kind of sign on to a couple other platforms, and they're one single sign-on area for that, you know, and that's kind of for dealing with the digital currencies and stuff like that. So, it's not all that bad. The UI is actually fantastic as far as I'm concerned, and the content on there is pretty decent. In fact, I find it to be like an old old school YouTube kind of alternative thing. So that might be a good option in terms of a vacation spot. But, you know, I mean, I have to spend more time, you know, dealing with it to see if it's good from a creator standpoint. And next on our list, we have a double-decker bus. On one hand, it goes by the name of LBRY. Wait, I could have... LBRY. I swear, you know, I normally slur like this. This is a natural slur, and this is water. And then on the other hand, you have Odysee. Misspelt, I might remind you. But these two platforms are basically front ends and a top level on top of a huge back end. Yes, I went there with that computer joke. You can't go without making it. But with this blockchain in the background, actually LBRY is the blockchain that's going on. And you have LBRY.tv as a front end, which does the LBRY apps and stuff. And then you have Odysee, which is just a website front end that contacts the same stuff. So if you're on LBRY, you're on Odysee, and if you're on Odysee, you're on LBRY. It's kind of all basically coming back to the same thing. And it is decentralized, but it's not so decentralized to the point of DTube where it's kind of unmaintainable. You can actually maintain your account. You can log in with a regular password, and you can be able to exchange from one email and take all the credits and all the stuff that you have with your one email address and move all of that in your wallet and your digital coin balance and stuff like that over to a new email. So that's a benefit of LBRY. Now, in terms of a contender, I think that it is a good YouTube contender. Why? Because unlike most of these platforms, it has actual YouTubers on it. Look at the Odysee video that they used to advertise it. You'll see a lot of familiar faces on there, or at least I hope you would. It's kind of a good place to go. Now, I have to put my head down here for a second because you're gonna have conspiracy theories and nutty stuff from all sides on here. Remember how I mentioned BitChute was kind of like a Republican tube? And, you know, we'll just assume that YouTube is Democrat tube. Well, LBRY is the libertarian tube. You will see anything and everything on there. You'll see stuff from the right. You'll see stuff from the left. You'll see conspiracy theories. You'll see porn. You'll see a lot of weird stuff on there. And that just kind of comes with the territory and the responsibility of the freedom that you get with LBRY. Now, playback is abysmal at times. This is kind of the drawback of the system, is that when you're using stuff and everything like that, it doesn't have quality controls, and that's part of the decentralized theme, is you don't really have quality controls. And so, unfortunately, you're going to hit a buffer wall if you have a bad internet like I do. And that's why they recommend when you're uploading videos to LBRY that you put it in like 720p or lower, so that way, you know, it is able to be delivered properly. And it uses a lot of a peer-to-peer kind of thing, so when you're using the app, it's going to try to store stuff on your device, and unless you tell it, don't store stuff, don't automatically download videos that I watch, you gotta let it know all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a little bit of flip side. However, you can access it through the web, which kind of negates that, but then they have the cookies and stuff, and if you're like a privacy advocate, I mean, well, you know, you don't get the same control as you do on the app. Yes, I said app, because unlike DTube and BitChute and a lot of these other ones, it has an actual app, and it's actually maintained by LBRY, so that's fantastic. Now, there is no app for Odysee. It all goes through LBRY. And this basically makes it trustworthy because it comes from the actual, you know, the platform, I guess you could say, that publishes it. So it's really well done and well-rounded as far as I'm concerned in that opinion. Let's move on to the next one, PeerTube. And PeerTube is like a really cheap version of LBRY. And I was, you know, it was one of the first platforms that I saw when it came to alternative content compared to YouTube. And PeerTube is decentralized. Too decentralized. Way too decentralized. It is like Linux. There are so many Linux distributions that it's a pain in the butt, and that's why I don't like Linux. And frankly, that's kind of a pain in the butt about BSD. And with PeerTube, it's not like it because of Linux, because someone has a disagreement and they spat with each other. It's just because the whole idea is to be decentralized. It's like the United States is supposed to be running its government, you know, like Confederate or federal, where you have different independent, you know, entities that all come together under this giant umbrella. And that's what PeerTube focuses on. You want an account on PeerTube, you're going to have to go to one of these alternative sites. And these are kind of like self-hosted instances. And unfortunately, I mean, I tend to have more subscribers on my YouTube channel right now with 321 than there are total viewers on one instance of PeerTube. So that's kind of the downside of it. And not to mention that you still hit the same buffering issues and everything that you have with LBRY, and it doesn't have the same great support and stuff like that on it. So as far as I'm concerned, PeerTube, it has a good idea, but it's just not meant for the YouTube alternative folks and stuff like that. And it would be just as confusing as a pain as DTube in this instance. So unless you understand the model of it and the theory and the beliefs behind it, it's not really going to be a good platform for you. And yes, there is no app on this one officially as well. Then we have StoryFire, and this comes into the world of, is it decentralized or is it centralized? Decentralized basically means, you don't have that YouTube, monarch controlling and dictating to you, telling you what you can do. Instead, you have just basically an open market. People put their crap there. It's there for good. Remember that, especially if you're going to go for a job in the future, StoryFire is a little bit different because it's a little bit more centralized. And unfortunately, a lot of people on StoryFire and a lot of people in general think of StoryFire as an alternative to YouTube. And even though you've got YouTubers and stuff like that have signed up and are posting videos like they do on there, it's not supposed to be a YouTube alternative. In my opinion, it's supposed to be a place for creators to come to publish creative stuff, like stories. I used to be a writer back in the day. Don't know why I don't have any good pacing in my videos and why my scripting sucks, but that's just me. But I liked to write stories back in the day. And StoryFire is a place to publish those stories. I mean, it's in the name. StoryFire. It's not YouTube, it's StoryFire. It's about spreading stories like wildfire in California. It's about writing things. I'm writing a story and I publish the story on there. That's what it's supposed to be about, not necessarily about, hey, look, a cat video. So StoryFire is not a place for cat videos or things like this. Haha, he got hit with water. StoryFire is a place for these stories. All right? And that's how I find it. And that's why I kind of moved all my Morel Madness stuff away from my multiple platforms to making it a StoryFire exclusive, to keep with the feeling of it. So I think that these people that do these videos that tell a story, even if it's just a giant meme joke, like Robin Sick, for instance, or Seek, I don't know how do you pronounce that. That kind of stuff belongs on StoryFire. And that's the kind of place that it is. When it comes from a creator standpoint, to get to be able to put videos on there, it will be a while before you get on there. You have to manually apply for the rights to upload videos. And it's manually reviewed by individuals, by human beings. And essentially, you're being critiqued on certain things. You have to have content existing. Show us a trailer is what they're asking for when you apply for video stuff. They say, show us a trailer of your content. Show us, a link to your YouTube channel or whatever for, looking at the content. They look at it, they evaluate it, they say, hey, this is the kind of stuff we want. They'll allow you to sign up for their platform. And it's going to be a process of waiting. I applied in July of 2020. It wasn't until October of 2020 that I got an announcement. I didn't get an email. It just popped up on StoryFire on their feed saying, hey, congratulations to these creators. And I was one of these little names in there. And people are saying, why do they pick all the, people and, you need YouTubers on here if you want to be a competitor, man. Again, it's not supposed to be a YouTube competitor as far as I can see. StoryFire. Enough said. And the benefit of StoryFire is that they have an official app. And it's fairly decent. It works well. And I have no complaints about the app. And the web interface works just fine too. In fact, I think it's kind of cool when you're uploading videos just how it looks. I mean, you just can't beat that. That's the way I want it to look, That's just awesome anyway. Good jobs to the people that have worked on it. They've made it a good quality platform that just merges blogging and writing and, video and stuff. I mean, it's a great place for those directors and writers and stuff like that. So those are the big platforms that I have. And yes, there are some honorable mentions like Dailymotion and Vimeo and that stuff, but they're kind of like YouTube corporate sellouts and stuff like that. You kind of pay to get on the platform. And it's a YouTube for corporations. Let's just leave it at that, But hey, if you're into that kind of stuff, whatever, go for it. It's a free market after all. So those are some beautiful sites that you can go visit for your video vacations. Thanks for watching, and Hatty camping. I swear to you, it is water. I can't tell you how many takes I've been recording of this because I don't write a script. That's gonna change. But don't ever expect any more videos out of me. maybe I should go to streaming.